everyone, Foxx here. Now, ours is a funny old hobby. We spend a lot of time and go to a great deal of effort to make the end results of our work and our travails look as good as possible. We like to feel proud of our work, and to that end, we always invest a lot of time, patience, energy and money into the equipment we use to get to those end results. We demand the finest sable hair brushes, the best airbrushes, only the finest nippers to make sure there's no damage to the plastic, and so on and so on. I myself personally demand an excessively milky cup of tea to get the best results. But there is one area where we tend to not really pay that much attention. We just go for whatever's to hand, and that is with knives. Now, I've used a variety of modelling knives over the year, and one thing you may not know is that my good friends over at eModels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs, are big stockists of OLFA, and OLFA are famed for the quality of their knives and blades. And today, I'm going to give you a quick look at a couple of their new knives, which are fresh in stock, which we've had a play with, and we really like. So, here is a quick look at the OLFA ESK-1 and the OLFA AK5. Let's take a look. Okay, so we're going to look at two different knives today. We're going to look at the ESK-1, which is a great knife for beginners and younger builders, and then the AK5, which is the kind of knife you or I might use. Now, I have to address, first of all, the big elephant in the room. Yes, eModels have sent me these knives to look at, and I am known as Captain Stabberty. I stab myself all the time because I'm inept. So it's going to be interesting to see if I have any mortal wounds while reviewing these. I hope not, especially with the safety knife, because I'd never live that down. So we'll have a look and see. But thank you, James at eModel, for sending me these. I did tell him afterwards that I'm known as Captain Stabberty, and he was like, oh, just don't kill yourself. So let's have a look and see what these are. We'll start with the AK5, the kind of knife that you or I would like to use. And here we are, the AK5. Now, it looks a bit unusual, you'll have noticed, and that's because it's a general craft knife. It's not just designed for model making, so it's got a couple of features that you won't have seen before, which are really quite handy. Now, it comes with this plastic sheath on the end. That's not just to keep anything protected, it actually serves a purpose. If you slide it into this base, like that, you end up with this really handy little mount for your knife while you're working. So you can store it while you're working. It's not going to roll off across the desk, and you're not going to have it sort of slide off or knock it off onto the floor into your foot, which I've done before. So we have that little thing there. Now, you also get this plastic case here, you'll notice. This does serve a purpose. There's two sections in here. Let's have a look. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is there are two compartments in this base part. One is filled with mysterious things, mysterious treasures. What's in here? First of all, you get 30 spare blades. Now, if you're anything like me, I tend to use one, maybe two blades per model project. I only really use two blades if it's an exceptionally complicated build with lots of parts. So I usually get by on about one blade per build. So 30 blades, that's going to last you a long time. That could last you a good couple of years. However, when you do start to run low, and you will, eModels do carry all the spare blades in stock, so they've got you covered. Now, you also notice this little thing on the back of the lid here. This is a pin, and I'll have a look at that in a moment. But let's have a look at the other side. You'll notice on the other side it's completely empty. That's because this is a storage area, and it's really tricky to open, and that is by design. Use the back of the blade and pop that open, and that is a storage area for spent blades. You don't ever want to put your used blades just straight into the rubbish. Don't ever just dump them in your bin. At the end of the day, it has to go to your local recycling centre, and some poor fella has to put his hand into the rubbish and sort it all out. And the last thing you want is him damming his hand into a load of rubbish and coming out with the blade sticking out of his finger. So always dispose of your blades responsibly. Follow the guidance of your local recycling organisations and do what they ask you to do with blades. But while you're working on this, you can store up to 30 of them in here as you go along, and once this gets full, you can then dispose of them responsibly. It's not going to open by accident. It's actually hard enough to close, never mind open. It's not going to open by accident. It's going to stay shut while you're working, and it's a really safe way to keep those blades piling up. You could just leave them in there and throw this away, but you don't really want to throw this away because it's a handy storage box. So keep your blades in there and then dispose of them responsibly. So that's the storage box and everything else. Let's have a look now at the knife. So you can see the body of the knife there. Quite unusual with this bit on the end, but we'll explain that in a second. But the actual insertion of blades and so on is beautifully simple. It's designed to be as straightforward as possible. You can see we have this slotted aperture at the front there, and all you do is quite literally unscrew it to loosen it. You can see the blades have the sharp bit at one end and the smooth bit at the other. If you're not particularly confident, you can grab the blade with some tweezers or pliers to be extra safe, but you should be okay. And all you do is quite simply slot the blade in like that. Once it's in, you can tighten that up. And there we go. We have the blade of shiny pointiness. Yes, now be very careful, of course. Removing the blade is the same procedure. Backwards, loosen it off, carefully grab it. If you want to use pliers, you can, and pull the blade out. The pin works the same way. It's got a little notch cut in there, and all you do is slide that into the aperture. Wait till it goes down in the middle, and then tighten that up. And make sure that your little grips, your little teeth here are grabbing. If you can do it with one hand, it's quite tricky, but you can get it done. There we go. Make sure it's gripping down on that little flat bit. And there you have a pin, which is a brilliant little sculpting tool. If you're, say, doing some filler on a model and you want to put some little texture in there, that's what this is for. Anything where you need a pin or a little sculpting tool, perhaps you need to apply dots of CA glue, or you want to make little marks or even make rivets or anything like that. Brilliant little pin there. You could put any old pin in there, I suppose, but that's a nice little pin designed to fit in that vise. Also, that's why it's got this bit on the end. This bit is also for sculpting your putty. If you're an artist, you might do clay or something like that, but if you're a model maker, this will be for sculpting with your putty, with your milliput or your green stuff or whatever. It's a handy little spatula sculpting tool. Wipe clean. If you put anything on it, you could use it for, in fact, you could use it for texture paints as well. Imagine you're putting a texture paint on a base. Easily clean it off afterwards. So there you go, that's the knife. Now I'm going to put the blade back in and we'll just have a quick look at the cutting action. Alright, so let's give this a try. Now, OLFA have the reputation of making some of the sharpest and toughest blades in the business. So let's give this a try. I've got some plastic card here, thin plastic card. I'm not going to put any pressure down at all. I'm just going to use the weight of the knife to see what happens. So let's give it a go. Are you ready? Let's give it a whirl. Ooh, very nice. Oh yes, that's almost no effort whatsoever. Gonna try a curvy bit. Oh yeah, it's really quite pleasing. It's buttery smooth. I'm putting no weight down at all, and I've got to be honest, I'm finding the shape. Let me look at that. I'm finding the shape because it's like a pen. I'm actually finding it really nice. For example, to do like curves, I can simply roll my hand around like that. Oops. And just do curvy shapes. I think this would be really handy if you were doing some complicated compound curves, or say you were cutting out lettering or something for masks or any kind of masking. That would be really awesome. So that is really nice. No effort at all, not putting any pressure down, and I have to tell you, like I said, that is really comfortable. That is really comfortable. It's knurled here to give some grip, and it's nicely weighted. So I think 10 out of 10 for that. I like that. That is really nice. That is awesome. So that is the AK5. Obviously I've not got any. Oh, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll do some plastic carving as well while I'm here. Let me get some plastic. Okay, because this is what we're actually going to use it for. Now, obviously, I tend to do things a certain way, so you're going to see me cutting towards myself here. If you can avoid it, don't cut towards yourself, because that makes you silly. I'm just an idiot, so yeah. Now, I'll try it first of all for getting... We've got some nubs on this piece here. Got a nub there and a nub there. Let's just try it for the first of all traditional cutting nub off. Now, I don't recommend you do this when you're making a model. Don't cut nubs off like this, but just to try it out, see what happens. Bit of pressure. Ooh, nicely. I've put a fair bit of pressure on there, but not too much. But it didn't really bend or give too much. It was quite satisfying. Now I'm gonna... Don't do this. Don't do this at home, kids. I can't cut away from myself. I just can't do it. So I'm going to anchor my hands, but do not cut like this. I'm just doing this as a test to see how well this cuts. So we've got a fairly reasonably sized nub there. Let's give it a go. I want it to cut through and not jump suddenly too much. So I'm just going to put on some decent pressure, and there we go. And that is really nice. I didn't have to... I know it looks like the white knuckle of death there. That's more fear of stabbing myself on camera. But that's very nice. It's a very nice cut. Now, one other thing I want to check. Let's try... Sometimes you might want to get rid of a mould line or a seam line. And what you'll find with some blades, especially where you've got a knife with a long blade, it'll skitter and jump and scratch the surface. So imagine there was a mould line down the middle here. Let's see what happens if I try and... I'm going to keep the blade flat and see what happens. That seems nice and sturdy. I don't want to do too much because I've got to build this model at some point. Yeah, I don't want to change the shape of it. That seems nice and stable. It would need a little bit of sanding, but that is a vast improvement on my other modelling knives, which would have left that all scraped and gouged and require a whole mess of sanding. That is actually quite nice. It's almost as good as my mould line removing tool from Citadel, which leaves it smooth. That would require just the tiniest smoothing. You can't really see on camera, but that is not scratched at all. I like that. So this blade gets a win from me. Easy to replace the blades. You get 30 in the pack, and that'll last you a good year or two for most use. I've got bits all over my hands now, and I find that really, really comfortable. And I'm not having to put much pressure on, so with a brand new blade. So, yep, that gets 10 out of 10 for me, that one. Now let's put this down onto one side. In fact, let's put it in the safety place where it's supposed to go. There you go, see? And we'll have a look at the other knife, the ESK-1, which is the safety knife. Now, can I just point out, I haven't stabbed myself yet. This is important. Let's go and have a look at the ESK-1. So now we have the ESK-1, which looks really weird, but it is actually a safety knife. This is designed ideally for younger builders. Now, I'm not saying super young, obviously not going to give it to a very young child, but if you've got a kid who can be trusted not to stab themselves too much or cause themselves injury when they're doing crafts, this is ideal. And it's also, it's just a good knife all around anyway. It doesn't have to be aimed at children, but it is designed with safety in mind. And it's quite simple. You get two parts, the base and the knife. Now, it's deceptively simple. First of all, the blade slides out like a normal ratchet box cutting knife, like that. I like that noise. And you have this base unit which doubles as a stand. There you go, just somewhere to put it. Now, there is another function on this base, and I'll show that in a minute. Now, the blade itself is quite funky. When you get it out of the package, it has this plastic cover on. And all you do is you snap this off. Just pull that down. You snap this bit off, and this is what this bit's for. This is the blade snapping area. Ready? There. Snap. Gone. We now have the active blade of happiness. And that is as much of the blade that shows. All the blades are sheathed in this plastic. And that is as much as the blade that shows. Now, you can obviously still hurt yourself with that blade, but the risk is massively minimal compared to a naked blade sticking out. And when it comes to replacing a blade, all you simply do, when the blade gets too dull, put it in there. Pull it in a little bit, put it in there, snap it off. There you go. Done. New blade. There's no reason to be getting blades or tweezers or pliers to pull blades out and having blades lying around. So that's what the point of this safety blade is. Now, when it comes to, replacing the blades, I think you get 5 in here. That's fairly straightforward as well. Slide this bit back up like that. That comes up. That comes off. This pops out. And you have a set of blades there. And that's how they come, as this little magazine of blades. Slide it back in like that. You've got a little tab here that sticks into that hole. Ta-ding. There you go. That goes in there. And this slides over the top. I think it's that way around. There we go. And that's it. Blades replaced. So, replacing the strip of blades, there's no risk of injury. Replacing the blade as you use it, there's no risk of injury. And it's minimal injury when you're using it. So if you've got a younger builder in your house and you want to get them, encouraged, but you can trust them to look after themselves, this will be an ideal knife. Now, let's give it the quick test and see how it works. And so here we are, back again with the plastic card. Now, this knife isn't as heavy, but I'm going to start off with just using the weight of the knife. It's quite light and plastic, so let's give it just with the weight of itself. Move my hand away. Yep, pretty good. Pretty good. I'm having to put a bit more pressure on it, like I say, because it's not heavy metal like the other one. You need to apply a little bit of pressure, but that's quite nice in its cutting action. It's nice and precise. Try some curves. Yep, no problem. Nice and curvularity. There we go. So that does cut really nicely. So a little bit more pressure needed, because as I say, this is a lighter knife, but it cuts absolutely fine. I suspect the blade is not quite as sharp as the other one, but again, it is a safety knife. It's not going to be the sharpest thing you've ever come across, because you're not going to give that to your little boy or girl who's doing their craft project, are you? You want to keep it safe and secure. So yep, absolutely fine. Not quite as sharp, a bit more pressure required, but again, safety knife. We can try it on a piece of plastic. Now you've only got the little tiny bit of blade here, so it's a bit more challenging, but that seems to be working just as well. The plastic sheathing does get a little bit in the way, but it does seem to work quite as nicely if you're careful. I suspect it's not going to be as useful for big massive nubs, so you may have to pare them down a bit and make sure they're trimmed away. I think it's more going to be useful for seam line removal. Let's try it on there. Yep, that's pretty darn good. That seems all right. I would say this knife is possibly better suited to very tiny nubs or cleanup. Whereas the other knife is obviously suited to all kinds of plastic, but this knife is just as good as the other one at cutting card, paper, any kind of craft projects, plastic card, things like that. But again, keep in mind, it is aimed at the younger builder. So there you have it, two very different knives with very different niches to fill. What do I think? Well, I kind of said already, but the AK5 for the more advanced modelers such as myself and no doubt yourself, I love this. It's beautifully weighted. The top heaviness of the blade end means it does a bit of the work for you. It's a joy to hold. It's nice and comfortable. It's not going to be tiring. I often find when I'm cutting like masks out and stuff, my hands can get really sore after a while, just the pressure of trying to push down, but I think that'll be comfortable for extended periods of use. Swapping the blades is a doddle. I also like the fact you get the pin for other work and you get the spatula on the end, which is really nice for your texturing and all kind of things. And you can't ignore the fact you get the box with the stand and the spare blades. 30 blades is going to last you at least 6 months, if not, it lasts me a couple of years, that, because I'm a bit of a Yorkshireman when it comes to blades. I get rid of a blade when it's so blunt it's just a piece of metal. I'm a bit of a Yorkshireman like that, so they'll last you a long time. You get the pin as well, and you get the stowage, safe stowage for your used blades. And then we have the ESK-5, which is absolutely designed 100% with safety and the younger builder in mind. So if you've got somebody in the house younger, want to get them into crafts or art or any kind of model making, anything like that, anything crafty where they'll need a knife, this is a really good idea. There's so little of the blade showing. Removing and replacing blades and refilling the knife means there's no blades lying around. There's no risk of stabity from that. It's nice and simple to use. You get the base with the removal slot, and you can unscrew it to empty it of blades when it gets full. Absolutely fantastic knife. Now, of course, it's not going to fare quite as well with the heavy duty stuff that we put our big grown-up knives through. It's not going to get rid of big nubs. It's not going to be used for carving that much. It's going to be fine for cleanup, mold lines and getting rid of little nubs and imperfections, things like that on a model kit. But it's also ideal for crafts, for paper cutting, card cutting, cutting thin pieces of plastic card, making plastic card strips, all that kind of stuff. So don't write it off. It's a brilliant little knife and absolutely fantastic if you've got the younger builder, but you don't want to give them something like this, because they just watch a young child painting a model. They're like this with the brush. There's waving of the arms and there's the flailing of the... Yeah, you don't want to give them one of these. So yeah, if you've got a younger builder and you want to get them into any kind of hobby, get them one of these. So there you go. That is the ESK-1 and the AK5, two absolutely fantastic knives, two slightly different niches and purposes. I'd recommend both of these. Now, these are, of course, available from my very good friends at eModels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs, as are all the refills and all the accessories. They do stock OLFA blades, and there's lots of other blades and knives in there, so go and have a look if you're looking for blades and knives. Again, like I said at the start, we tend not to think about knives too much. We just get a knife and then we cut with it. But especially when it comes to things like this, the weighting of that, it's so nice to hold. I'll be using this from now on. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Go make something awesome. Go be awesome. And until next time, I shall say, adios amebas. I didn't stab myself. Yes, I didn't stab myself. Woohoo! eModels.co.uk. Make something awesome.